Hello, beautiful souls. How are you today? I have been prompted to do a video on really some very organic downloads that came from Maggie and Yeshua today. And I say organic because there are times where we set out to obtain some specific answers to specific questions via our clairabilities, right? And so we ask the questions and the questions are delivered either clairaudient, claircognizant, clairvoyant, or a combination of all of that, right? Well, this morning, one of my sisters was having a conversation with our soul mom about really wanting to get the truth out, really wanted to set the record straight, so to speak. So the conversation was about the truth being known about the divine feminine, divine masculine. And so ultimately, the truth being known about Yeshua and Maggie would give so much more context to the beings that are in search of truth and helping to determine their balance of their divine feminine and divine masculine. Because in all of us, we have to obtain that balance. We have both divine feminine and divine masculine qualities that have to find their balance. And the gel that helps that occur is healing the inner child. I have videos about all that stuff, but that's kind of what the conversation was about this morning. And Yeshua and Maggie stepped forward and said, there's some things that we really want to get straight. Like these are some things, there are many, but this is one thing that if we could clear up, we really feel like it would be beneficial, to the collective. So first I'm going to do is read to you, and I invite you to go find it and read it yourself. John 13, verses 1 through 17. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to tell you before I ever even start. Verses 1 through 3 are edited and added in, not accurate, per Yeshua. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Again, this is not factual. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. Okay, that's where the fakeness ends. That's edits that were added in by Constantine and the bishops. Okay, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," Peter said, "you shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you." And he did know that there were sellouts, but it wasn't Judas. It was Peter. So, for he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so." Edit. For what that is what I am. He meant I'm a teacher. Okay. And now that I, your Lord, edit, and teacher, accurate, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Truth. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master. True. Nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Okay. So keep that in mind. 1 through 3, fake edits, some other words along the way. What I do, because I have access to Yeshua, source creator, Mother Sophia, Maggie, I use my clair abilities and I say, is this accurate? Is this accurate? Is this to be trusted? And that's how I know. So again, the true meaning was distorted. The true meaning of that passage was distorted by the Council of Nicaea. Peter was placed in Yeshua's following as a disciple to infiltrate it, to stop the divine feminine from rising up. Peter was very patriarchal, and he felt that women had a specific pigeonholed place, and it did not involve having any type of power or prestige or position. So Judas did not betray Yeshua. This came straight from Yeshua, by the way. In fact, Yeshua is showing us that he created a plan with Judas because he knew who the real traitors were. And Judas was very instrumental in assisting Maggie in escaping out of the city. Judas was a true friend to Yeshua and Maggie. Many of Yeshua and Maggie's followers were actually willing participants at the Council of Nicaea. Willing participants. Working with Constantine to edit out the beauty, the magic, the power of the divine feminine. There were many influential and powerful women that were disciples of Yeshua. Maggie was the most powerful and at the top of that list. But there could be no record of that. They were fighting against that, the men that did not want women to have any power or place. They couldn't have that in the record because it contradicted what they said was law. Okay. And so they had willing participants that followed, they were moles. They were traitors. They betrayed him out of their ego and their patriarchal, womanizing behavior. They truly believe that no woman should ever have any abilities and certainly not do any healing or have any teachings or anything like that. And the fact that she could and did and was honored to do so with Yeshua just infuriated the men disciples, not all of them, but some, because they were jealous. They wanted that position and they wanted to out that. They wanted to get rid of all of the feminines that had already activated their abilities, and they were already healing people, and they were already had a following in and of themselves, separate and apart from any male disciple. So these traitors were against the teachings because they believed women had no right to the power, especially Maggie. They were against the round table discussions and teachings that Maggie and Yeshua held. They never had what you would call a sermon. They literally sat in a circle and they would bring up a topic and they would just let the conversation flow very organically. And that is how people learned, and that is how they learned. And there was a give and take. So the division was seated and has always been, really, no matter what dimension you're in, no matter what type of people you're dealing with, division is usually seated by ego and a false sense of self, bolstered by that ego. So another image that Maggie showed my sister this morning was of all the women cooking, like they were preparing for a festival or a feast of some kind. And then they took a break and they had baskets that they had filled with candles and food and water. And they brought the baskets to their husbands. The husbands took the baskets, kissed their wives, and entered into the cave. They stayed in the cave for 2 nights and 3 days. On the third day, the women, the wives, returned to the cave. The men emerged from the cave with their essence changed. That is Ishtar, Easter. The men go into the cave for 3 days and 2 nights, and they go through a spiritual ceremony where it's an up-leveling. And this occurs in the spring, on the full moon. And this is, again, over a 3-day period of time. Now, when the husbands emerge from the cave, the women, then they escort their wives. And so the married women have their own ceremony. And they braid their hair and they wear white robes, and the men escorted them through the town or the village down to the coast, to the shore. And they played flutes and they danced, and it was very lighthearted and very happy because this was spring. This was new lives. This is where their animals and livestock were birthing their calves and foals. This is where the flowers were blooming and their fruits and vegetables were growing. And this is a blessing of fertility and sacred divine unions between the divine feminine and divine masculine, with sacred sexual tantra. And so the husbands escorted down and provided the music, and the women danced and made their way down to the shore. And then when they got there, they disrobed, being completely protected in their space, but communal. This is family. This is a celebration. This is nothing dark or satanic or dirty, like the church likes to make it up. And women enter into the ocean and they swim, and they are cleansed in their entire being with the ocean water. And so this purifies their bodies for their husbands, and then they have their sacred reunion after the 3 days in the cave. And this occurs day and night. So this is an all day, all night type of deal. I obviously abbreviated it to describe it. And then the full moon in spring. And so typically that's about the 3rd week-ish of March. That is the new year. That is when the new year is supposed to be, because it's new beginnings. It's new life. It's new. And so the ritual of washing men's feet and using anointing oil on Yeshua and then drying his feet with her hair, Maggie says this is part of the Ishtar celebration ritual. This was done to bless their husbands before they went into the cave. So the churches have inverted a lot of the truth. Okay, so and honestly, I was raised Catholic. If you ask any Catholic, they're going to just regurgitate to you what they've been told and what they've been beat over the head with the Bible. Very, very few question. Very few question any of it. even though it doesn't make any sense. Just saying. So the churches have turned everything into something dirty, right? And that is really their projection. That's their judgment and their projection on things. They were doing horrible things to people and beings for the sake of power and control. But they projected it out like the people that were actually doing good were doing horrible things. Obviously not. But it's the opposite. This is a tradition of the Essenes. This is a tradition in the culture to not take dirt and filth to bed, to clean yourself and to be clean in all ways. And so in all spaces, in all indoor spaces, you enter into the structure, and inside the door is a basin of water and clean rags for people to clean their feet before they go into the home, and definitely before they go into their room for bed. You see how that makes much more sense? Just sit with it for a minute. So Yeshua, I asked him, John 13, verse 1 through 20, is it about humility? Yes. Some understood and some did not. This is Yeshua talking. This is why I always encourage questions. And Maggie and I did not give sermons. We sat as a group, and either Maggie or I would bring up a topic and just let the conversations flow. Humility lesson. In your current life and incarnation, you could equate it to starting an entry-level position, which has not a lot of fame and glory, but you show up every day on time, you give it all you've got, you go above and beyond, and someone at the upper echelons, the top level management, they notice your work ethic. They notice that even though it's an entry-level position, you're giving it all that you can. And you're grateful and appreciative. And they're grateful and appreciative that they have someone there, And so it's the same thing. Like the passage is meant to say, what you get with the translations is inverted truth. The truth is in there. You have to figure it out. You have to think. You have to go, okay, obviously, like we are, Yeshua is a spiritual being having an earthly existence, an earthly experience. In that earthly experience, he shared energy work as an energy healer, and that came from his divine blessings, but also because he's a starseed like us. And so we have those abilities. And he shared that. They like to put him up on a pedestal and elevate him and make him seem better than. And that was not ever his teaching. He was always about everyone has the right to learn. Everyone should have the same equal opportunities to come forth and ask questions. Do you remember the conversations of why a woman in the back raising her hand to ask a question and getting chastised by the crowd? Because the culture was women don't even get to ask questions. And Yeshua said, yes, come forward, ask your question, approach me. It was not him. It was them. It was those outside of him that could not get outside of their own way. Humility is, I am no better than you are. I may have a position that puts me in different contexts of people, or I have different missions I have to do, or whatever the case may be. But in the eyes of Source Creator and Mother Sophia, we are all equal. We are all equal. We are aspects of Source. They live vicariously through our experiences. It never made sense to me, ever. So the Bible, you know, 90%, 90% has been edited. There's copyrights on the Bible right now because Queen Elizabeth is no longer with us in this plane. The copyrights are held by whatever the publishing company is in the third dimension. The really, really, really awesome news. I mean, I think all this is awesome, but this was particularly got my interest up. One of the crews that one of the missions that my ground crew had was to recover the Book of Sarah. And it was held under the sacrifice table in the Vatican, in the sacrificial chamber under the stage in the Vatican. And we recovered that and handed it to Source. And it was healed and cleared of all of that trauma. Anyway, Maggie steps forward again, and she's holding the good book. And she says, it is all of the missing books of the Bible that were edited out, including the Book of Sarah. It is available in the fifth dimension. Now, right now. The name of the book is The Journey of the Way. The truth of the Essenes, their lifestyle, the lost teachings, Enoch, all of it. Everything that gives accurate honor to the divine feminines, to our star people, to the divine masculine, to the balance there, honoring the matriarchs, balance in all things, honoring the family as a unit, honoring sacred sexual tantra. This is not pornography. Closed-minded people will label it because they don't want to go through the work of getting real with themselves and looking inside themselves and saying, you know what? If I'm on a completely balanced, emano, spiritual connection with my partner, and it is the music and dance of life, because we create life through the portal of the womb. How can that be dirty and bad? It's not. It's not. They want you to believe it to be, but it is not. It is how we have survived all these millions of years. Is we have to keep fighting to bring forth the strength of the divine feminine and that complement of the divine feminine with the divine masculine. If you don't think that the divine feminine's role has been missed, just look at the world today. Look at all the chaos and pain and turmoil that the men in charge have allowed, fostered, dreamt up, and created. All of the edits from the Council of Nicaea and those that came after, all the 3D edits, additions, falsehoods have been removed. They are not in the book called The Journey of the Way in the fifth dimension. All of the passages that were misinterpreted or were added to the Bible to endorse ABUSE rituals, sacrifices, unauthorized movement of little people, and anything else, anything other than unity consciousness is out, gone, because it was never part of our true history. That is the truth of the divine interaction that we've had and has been hidden from us for a very, very long time. So if you're unaware, I had done a video before, but it was with some people that were shady, and so I took the video down. Ishtar is the goddess of war, fertility, and sacred sex. Again, Tantra. We're not talking about prostitution. The celebration of Ishtar, which is pronounced Easter, is about new life, fertile ground, fertile wives, spring, and sacred Tantra. The symbols of the egg and the bunny, they're all about procreation. They're all about fertility. They're all about new life. Ask yourself, what do bunnies and eggs have to do with resurrection? Nothing. The Emperor Constantine decided to Christianize the empire. He thought at the end of his very evil life, he could say that he could be baptized and he could Christianize everything and he would be okay. But he was evil to the core and he was never okay. He changed Ishtar to Easter that we know now to represent Jesus's resurrection, which is false. So the roots of Easter are Ishtar celebrated the new life, fertile ground, fertile crops, fertile farm life, fertile divine feminine, divine masculine unions, fertile families. And that ensured survivability of the species. When you have food and you have family and you have the ability to continue to grow that and foster that, then that ensures survivability, right? So yeah, this is one of those things that, again, totally unsolicited. Maggie and Yashua were literally like jumping up and down, like we have to get the truth out. And I volunteered a while back to be the truth teller. I am not the one delivering or creating the message. I'm just delivering the message as it came through. And I've given as much background information to help it make sense. But this is really about you sitting with your heart and your soul. Do not go look for references to truth in the Bible because it's not there. I mean, there's some words there. They source says it's about 10% accurate. But what they did was they scattered the 10% all throughout the book. And so you literally will get 2 or 3 words that are accurate and the rest are not. So, as always, the truth is within us. Everything we need to know is in our DNA blueprint. Turn off the noise. Stop listening to the people that are telling you this is the way it has to be. It cannot be any other way. Because I am here to tell you there are many, 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 many people that have regretted saying that. And it continues to this very day. It's astonishing to me how many people can be asked simple questions about this religion that they've taken on their entire life. They plan their entire life around the holidays that go and coordinate with this religion, and they cannot answer questions about Ishtar. They can't tell you why bunnies and eggs are part of the resurrection story. And it is a story. It's completely made up. Maggie and Yeshua lived a very long life. They were hunted down and eventually they were both murdered. But it was not the way it was portrayed in the Bible. And they had 5 children and they ultimately ended up in North America. True, that all came from them. So understand that there's a whole lot more to the truth of the divine feminine and the balance and the pure love, beauty, bliss of that union. It has been demonized, it has been bastardized, but it is only that way because of the power that union holds. I hope you received this message well today. There's a lot of information that you can dig into on this. Use discernment. Understand that The powers that were did not ever want this truth to be known, but that's exactly why Yeshua and Maggie want this out there. If you've never heard it before, you can't make an educated decision on what's your truth and what is true and what resonates in your being. For me, this makes so much sense. You can't like unsee it. And so I really thank them for coming forth and sharing this information with us today. And so I wanted to share it with you. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again next time.